right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Think and Grow Rich Live. My name is Michael Music. I am currently reading this book again. It is called Think and Grow Rich, and I truly think it's possibly one of the greatest philosophies I've ever read in my life. And so, what I've been doing is I've been truly like diving deep into this book and studying it. And so, that's what I'm doing today. So, just to update everybody, I'm going to be going live at 12 o'clock p.m. Mondays through Fridays now because it just fits in with my schedule. And what I wanted to do was I still wanted to continue just reading the book, even though this is like an audible, because reading it out loud really helps me like understand this. So I know it's not the most sexy content to put out, but it is what it is. Like it's some good stuff. So yesterday what we did was we started off with the chapter one, or I guess it's chapter two. Let me think. Maybe chapter one, I think, but it's on desire. It's the first step towards riches. And we're gonna keep reading the story now. And so we went over like the 6 steps on how to really just like come up with your desire and whatnot. And I just wanted to not even read. Let me see if I got a gold card in here. Okay, so this is a blank gold card, but this is, let me get a better one. Okay, so check this out. In the first part of desire, essentially there's 6 steps. And I figured that, okay, why make it like so intensive for people to follow? But I just want to show you, you get what you can do is you can print out a gold card. And I still have to do this for the last video, which is like link, just like the template for it. So you just print out whatever's linked in the description below and you cut it and you got a gold card. And what you would do is put that in like a baseball card sleeve. So now it's like you got it's already laminated and it was super cheap. So if you got a dad that collected baseball cards, I definitely would recommend doing that. And here you go. You got the first 6 steps of Think and Grow Rich already down. And if you want to dive deep into those, go back to the video. I think it's episode 34, which was yesterday's talk. Dive deep into that and just even if you want, just read the instructions yourself, right? So you got to understand this isn't there's a big difference in people that read this book and get nothing out of it because they just read through it once and they don't actually do it. And so I've read this God knows how many times, and I realized like okay, like not only am I going to get rich, I'm not going to get rich by reading it, is what I'm saying. I got to actually do the steps. So we did step one, which is actually come up with your goal and write it down and just carry it with you. The step 6, I will say, it said to really see and feel yourself with the state of the wish fulfilled, essentially. So that I say that to say like I really got to get better at practicing this. And yeah, that's the intro. I'm gonna share a little bit about me just for anyone that is tuning in that doesn't know. So my name is Michael Music. I graduated college in May with a degree in mechanical engineering. However, I've always been in the field of sales. So right now I am just doing engineering sales, which is like selling the software to businesses. And I can't help but like just think like okay, I need a little bit more in my life. So I am really diving deep into this book because I'm trying to I truly do want to become wealthy, and so that's what is on my mind right now. With that being said, that's the intro. So I'm gonna get into the book Desire. This is not gonna be the sexiest content, but it is when I was reading through this yesterday morning, it really like struck me interestingly some of this stuff. So I'm gonna essentially just read the script, and if anything really comes to my mind, I'll just share with you that. So one sec before I get started. Oh man, hold up. There we go. Sorry about that. All right, cool. So I'm on page 28 in the deluxe edition, and we just went over the 6 steps. So that's at the end of yesterday's talk. Now, Napoleon Hill says, to the uninitiated who has not been schooled in the working principles of the human mind, these instructions may appear impractical. It may be helpful to all who fail to recognize the soundness of the 6 steps to know that the information they convey was received from Andrew Carnegie, who began as an ordinary laborer in the steel mills, but managed, despite his humble beginnings, to make these principles yield him a fortune of considerably more than $100 million. It may be of further help to know that the 6 steps here recommended were carefully scrutinized by the late Thomas A. Edison, who placed his stamp of approval on them as being not only the steps essential for the accumulation of money, but necessary for the attainment of any definite goal. So what did Thomas Edison say? So Napoleon Hill and Thomas Edison were actually buddies back in the day, because Napoleon Hill had the pleasure of interviewing him. And so he said that coming up with these 6 steps, the first 6 steps described in Desire, is not only essential for the accumulation of money, but any definite goal. These are the 6 steps you want to follow. Which is interesting because this is lifelong principles. Like, this book was written, I think, in 1930s, 1938. You can definitely correct me if I'm wrong. And it stays true today. Almost we're less than 100 years later, but still, this is a big deal. So like these 6 steps, they're principles that I'm describing to you right here. So these steps call for no hard labor. They call for no sacrifice. They do not require one to become ridiculous or credulous. To apply them calls for no great amount of education, but the successful application of these 6 steps does call for sufficient imagination to enable one to see and to understand that accumulation of money cannot be left to chance, good fortune, or luck. One must realize that all who have accumulated great fortunes first did a certain amount of dreaming, hoping, wishing, desiring, and planning before they acquired the money. So I'm going to repeat that. One must realize that all who have accumulated a great fortune first did a certain amount of dreaming, hoping, and wishing. So I feel like a lot of people are doing those first 3, but then he says desiring, which is a different level. There's a different level of desire than it is to wish and want. And I can dive into that if you're interested. And then he says in planning before they actually acquired money. So I want to talk, like, what's the difference between wishing for a thing and desiring a thing, right? There's a tiny difference between the two. And so what I found through my study was that once happen in the conscious mind. You can want something intellectually, but when you desire something, it's impressed in the subconscious mind. And what that means is you literally feel it in every cell of your body, like this want, right? And I've had this happen to me before. However, I've lost the desire in that thing that I had written down on the goal card. And so that's why it's important on repetition, and why he says that you want to see and feel yourself with this goal every single day, twice a day, once upon arising and once upon going to bed, so that you really feel this want in every cell of your body. You know, there's this one great guy, his name's Neville Goddard, and he says the feeling is the secret. And I won't go in depth into that, but what I am going to say is you really want to feel it within you. That is what desiring the thing looks like or feels like. Okay, you may as well know right here that you can never have riches in great quantities unless you can work yourself into a white heat of desire for money and actually believe you will possess it. You may as well know also that every great leader from the dawn of civilization down to the present was a dreamer. Christianity is the greatest potential power in the world today because its founder was an intense dreamer who had the vision and the imagination to see realities in their mental and spiritual form before they had been transmuted into physical form. If you do not see great riches in your imagination, you will not see them in your bank balance. Never in history of America has there been so great an opportunity for practical dreamers as now exists. The 6 year economic collapse has reduced all men substantially to the same level. A new race is about to be run. The stakes represent huge fortunes which will be accumulated with the next 10 years. The rules of the race have changed because we now live in a changed world that definitely favors the masses, those who had but little or no opportunity to win under the conditions existing during the Depression when fear paralyzed growth and development. Think about what he's saying in this paragraph, right? He's saying that a new race is about to be ran where it's like the people, the general public actually have a chance of creating a fortune. Like it used to be this thing of like the old money versus the new money. But think about this, like this was written back in the 1930s, and think about it now with all the potential opportunities that we have, the general public, given that we now have the internet at our fingertips. So we who are in this race for riches should be encouraged to know that this changed world in which we live is demanding new ideas, new ways of doing things, new leaders, new inventions, new methods of teaching, new methods of marketing, new books, new literature, new features for the radio, new ideas for moving pictures, and back of all this demand for new and better things, there is one quality which one must possess to win, and that is definiteness of purpose, the knowledge of what one wants, and a burning desire to possess it. Okay, so here Napoleon Hill is bringing up the classic definiteness of purpose. And I found this very interesting because I would have expected a whole chapter dedicated to this 3 word phrase, definiteness of purpose. And I actually read Napoleon Hill's Law of Success, and he mentioned this. This is the first paragraph or the first chapter in the Law of Success is definiteness of purpose. And it's knowing what one wants. So it's actually interesting because you can ask 500 people out in the street today or this week, what do you really want? And it turns out most will not be able to tell you exactly what it is they want. So he states here that you must possess a definite major purpose, the knowledge of what you want, and then not only do you got to know what you want, which I mentioned is in the conscious mind, but you have to have a burning desire to possess it. And what is that burning desire? I know there's a good sentence for it. I don't have it on the top of my head, but I know that you got to feel it in every cell of your body. That's how you know it's a burning desire. It's got to become an obsession, essentially. So the business depression marked the death of one age and the birth of another. This changed world requires practical dreamers who can and will put their dreams into action. The practical dreamers have always been and always will be the pattern makers of civilization. We who desire to accumulate riches should remember the real leaders of the world always have been men who harnessed and put into practical use the intangible, unseen forces of unborn opportunity and have converted those forces or impulses of thought into skyscrapers, cities, factories, airplanes, automobiles, and every form of convenience that makes life more pleasant. I'm gonna keep going. Tolerance and an open mind are practical necessities of the dreamer of today. Those who are afraid of new ideas are doomed before they start. Never has there been a time more favorable to pioneers than the present. True, there is no wild and woolly west to be conquered as in days of covered wagon, but there is a vast business, financial, and industrial world to be remolded and redirected along new and better lines. In planning to acquire your share of riches, let no one influence you to scorn the dreamer. To win the big stakes in this changed world, you must catch the spirit of the great pioneers of the past, whose dreams have given to civilization all that it has of value, the spirit which serves as the lifeblood of our own country. Your opportunity in mind to develop and market our talents. Let us not forget Columbus, dreamed of an unknown world, staked his life on the existence of such a world, and discovered it. Copernicus, the great astronomer, dreamed of a multiplicity of worlds and revealed them. No one denounced him as impractical after he had triumphed. Instead, the world worshipped at his shrine, thus proving once more that success requires no apologies, failure permits no alibis. Okay, so here Napoleon Hill now says, if the thing you wish to do is right and you believe in it, go ahead and do it. Put your dreams across and never mind what they say if you meet with temporary defeat. For they perhaps do not know that every failure brings with it the seed of an equivalent success. So I underlined that last sentence. I'll read it again because I thought it was super powerful. If the thing you wish to do is right and you believe in it, go ahead and do it. Put your dream across and never mind what they say, because if you meet with temporary defeat, for they perhaps do not know that every failure brings with it the seed of an equivalent success. So, what does that mean? Every failure brings with it the seed of an equivalent success. Is he saying that every failure brings it with it an equivalent success? No, he's not. He's saying it brings with it the seed, right? The planting of the seed. And even though it's so small and so minuscule at first, like what do seeds grow into? They grow into giant trees, right? So even though it may not be apparent at first, the seed of equivalent success will become apparent the more you ponder on it. Henry Ford, poor and uneducated, dreamed of a horseless carriage, went to work with what tools he possessed, without waiting for opportunity to favor him, and now evidence of his dream belts the entire earth. He has put more wheels into operation than any man who has ever lived, because he was not afraid to go back to his dreams. Thomas Edison dreamed of a lamp that could be operated by electricity, began where he stood to put his dream into action, and despite more than 10,000 failures, he stood by that dream until he made it a physical reality. Practical dreamers do not quit. Whelan dreamed of a chain of cigar stores, transformed his dream into action. Now the United Cigar Stores occupy the best corners in America. Lincoln dreamed of freedom for the black slaves, put his dream into action, and barely missed living to see a united North and South translate his dream into reality. The Wright brothers dreamed of a machine that would fly through the air. Now one may see evidence all over the world that they dreamed soundly. Speaking of the Wright brothers, I actually found out that their father condemned them to hell. He was actually a pastor, and his father condemned them both to hell for even suggesting that the idea that they can fly was merely possible, right? And now it's a part of our every like normal being. Like everyone understands that there's airplanes that can fly from this place to this place. It's not nothing new, But think about it, at one point it was new, and they were the people that dreamed it and made it come true to what it is today. Marconi dreamed of a system for harnessing the intangible forces of the ether. Evidence that he did not dream in vain may be found in every wireless and radio in the world. Moreover, Marconi's dream brought the humblest cabin and the most stately manor house side by side. It made the people of every nation on earth backdoor neighbors. It gave the President of the United States a medium by which he may talk to all of the people of America at one time. So we're talking about the radio here. And when this wasn't a thing, everyone was actually disconnected. But once the radio got implemented, or whatever the word is, just people started buying them, everyone can get the same message at one place. Okay, so it gave the President of the United States a medium by which he may talk to all the people of America at one time and on short notice. It may interest you to know that Marconi's friends had him taken into custody and examined in a psychopathic hospital, where he announced he had discovered a principle through which he could send messages through the air without the aid of wires or other direct physical means of communication. The dreamers of today fare better. So the person that essentially invented the radio, his friends took him into psychiatric care because they thought he was so crazy for even suggesting that you can communicate through the ether. And now it's like, you think about it, it's like, oh, it makes sense, radio, whatever. Think about like me, I'm communicating to you from where you are instantly. Like the moment you click on this video, whether you're watching it live or watching the recording, you're clicking on it and you're instantly hearing my message, what I have to say about this book. And it's like, wow, we are like connected as if there is no space between us. So, the rules have changed, right? And Napoleon Hill says the dreamers of today fare better. So what idea can you come up with today that seems so out there, but it is so not out there? It makes so much sense. Like you get what I'm saying by that? So I'm going to keep going. The world has become accustomed to new discoveries. Nay, it has been shown a willingness to reward the dreamer who gives the world a new idea. The greatest achievement was at first and for a time but a dream. The oak sleeps in the acorn. The bird waits in the egg, and in the highest vision of the soul, a waking angel stirs. Dreams are the seedlings of reality. Awake, arise, and assert yourself. You're dreamers of the world. You awake, arise, and assert yourself. You dreamers of the world. Your star is now in the ascendancy. The world depression brought the opportunity you have been waiting for. It taught people humility, tolerance, and open-mindedness. The world is filled with an abundance of opportunity which the dreamers of the past never knew. A burning desire to be and to do is the starting point from which the dreamers must take off. Dreams are not born of indifference, laziness, or lack of ambition. The world no longer scoffs at the dreamer, nor calls him impractical. If you think it does, take a trip to Tennessee and witness what a dreamer president has done in the way of harnessing and using the great water power of America. A score of years ago, such a dream would have seemed like madness. You have been disappointed. You have undergone defeat during the Depression. You have felt the great heart within you crushed until it bled. Take courage, for these experiences have tempered the spiritual metal of which you are made. They are assets of incomparable value. Remember, too, that all who succeed in life get off to a bad start and pass through many heartbreaking struggles before they quote unquote arrive. The turning point in the lives of those who succeed usually comes at the moment of some crisis. through which they are introduced to their other selves. Okay, I want to pause on that line real quick. Right, we're talking about, like, you see all these people on the internet right now, and they look like overnight successes. Yet you'll be astonished to know they actually have defeated very, very, like, serious defeats in their life. Yet they kept going through these heartbreaking struggles until they quote unquote arrived. And what does that mean, arrived? Now, when they arrived, it's like, okay, now the whole world knows them. They're like, oh my God, like, how did you get successful overnight? Right? And so it's interesting to think, like, okay, like, what did they go through that I've not seen? Because, like, we're so used to seeing people on the internet, right? Like, what have you gone through that I've not seen you post that, like, was heartbreaking, was a struggle at first, was life just giving you temporary defeat that you overcame, and now you are the person that you are now? And what is this idea that Napoleon Hill is saying about the other self, right? Like, what is the other self? I actually experienced this. So I started my entrepreneurship journey when I was 19 years old. I started a painting business, and needless to say, it failed. It failed. Just like, it was just like a rough situation that happened, and I basically closed down shop with student painters. However, that moment, it knocked me back, right? Like, I remember spending 2 weeks just not sure what to do, because that whole summer I had this goal to make $10,000, and I didn't know what to do with myself, because the painting business was the vehicle that I was going to use to get me there, and I was knocked down. And I noticed that before that very moment, that life really was like, you better start thinking way more intensely. I was actually, a really negative thinker before that. And so that was the old self, the negative self. When I got hit with this temporary defeat, don't get me wrong, it didn't all come at once. But after some time, I started to discover this other self, which I'd like to call your faith self, which is the self that actually believes in what you are setting your mind to accomplish. And it's filled with positive emotions. It doesn't let negativity in. It has a mind closed off to all negative influences around it. And if you really want to understand this other self in further depth, there's this great book, also written by Napoleon Hill. It's called Outwitting the Devil. And he describes how he found his other self deep in this book, where it's actually in the very beginning, the intro of this book. So I'm going to pause there on that powerful subject of the other self. We are closing out at 30 minutes, and I want to keep these readings around that time. So I'm going to put my bookmark there. And I love to ask you all, like, what'd you learn and what'd you like so far from these stories, right? Like, essentially, I used to skip over this part a lot in Desire, but then I was like, okay, like, I really want to just do a deep dive on the entire book, because Napoleon Hill says that the secret to success is given no fewer than 100 times throughout the entire book. So I was like, maybe I am missing a key part of Desire here. And so we talked about some stories about how dreamers, just some success stories today. But, like, what did that mean to you? Like, what did that kind of implant in your mind of what is possible, right? Like, what did that story of the Wright brothers mean to you? How they were actually condemned to hell by their own father, who was a pastor. Imagine that happening, right? Like, was my personal defeat that big to that extreme, right? And, like, in reality, I can say no, it wasn't. So what'd you get out of, like, the stories shared here, right? We're going to talk about a lot more stories, and in an upcoming reading or upcoming episode, should be either tomorrow or the day after, we're going to talk actually about Napoleon Hill's own experience of how his son was born without ears, and they declared that he would be deaf for the rest of his life. And Napoleon Hill was like, no way, I've been studying these principles. I know what's good with them, and I'm not going to let that happen. So that's something we're going to touch upon more just in the upcoming episode. I want to inform you that it's going to be more stories, more stuff with Desire. Then after that, we're going to go to the next chapter. So I want to thank you all for watching this, and I'll end this call how I always end it, by Facebook. I'll see you all later, and YouTube. until we meet again in time and space, I never know when you're going to watch this recording, but if it benefits you, it benefits me. So I want to thank you for watching. And until we meet again, bye for now. Peace.